Welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and we have a jam-packed show on tap for you today. Some overreactions on an Overreaction Monday after the Texans got a 24-20 win over the Jacksonville Jaguars yesterday in Week 4 of the NFL season. If you're wondering, hey, what are the overreactions we're talking about on today's show? Well, this is what we're going to break down. Nico Collins, is he the best receiver in the entire NFL? I don't know. The offensive line, is that ruining this Texans team? And then also the secondary. Do we have to worry about them? Is that a cause of concern? I'll break all this down on today's show, but a win is a win is a win is a win in the NFL. I'm never going to complain too much about the Texans getting a dub this year. So if you're happy the Texans got a dub, it's a victory Monday after all. Go down and spam those H's down in the comment section because, like I said, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't what we all wanted to happen yesterday. But at the end of the day, they got the win. And that is the most important thing in the National Football League. So if you're a Texans fan, if you're a real one, go spam H down in the comments section. And before we get started, if this is your first time watching, you're like, what are Toro heads? What is this rumor meter? Well, if it gives something 0 heads, that means it's fake news. 1 head, think of it like 25%, small shred of truth. 2 heads, people are talking about 50%. 3 heads, 4 heads, you kind of get the deal. So let's get into the first story on today's show. Nico Collins is the best wide receiver in the NFL. Give me 3 Toro heads on this one. People are talking, and for good reason. I mean, this man has absolutely tore up the league so far. In 4 games, 30 receptions, 489 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 171 yards after catch. That yak that he's been able to do has been impressive. And if you're just wondering, hey, well, how good is that, comparatively, for the season? If he continues this pace, this year he'll have 128 receptions, over 2,000 yards, 9 touchdowns, and over 700 yards of yak, that yard after catch. I mean, he is the real deal, Nico Collins. And the fact that the Texans signed him to that contract this offseason, I said it then, I'll say it again, I'll continue to say it until I roll over in my grave. That was one of the best deals of the entire offseason, and the Texans got an absolute steal with Nico Collins. He's been the best player on this Texans roster. That's including CJ Stroud. That's including other players on the defensive side of the football. I think he has been the most complete, the most, dominating player that the Texans have this entire season so far. He has been there every time the Texans needed a big play. He's made it. Every time that he has had the ball thrown his way, he's done everything in his power to make a play. Nico Collins has been that dude for the Houston Texans, and he deserves some respect on his name. So fill in the blank for me. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with the YouTube ad break, perfect timing. Scroll on down and give me your answer. Nico Collins is a top blank receiver in the NFL. Go down and give me your thoughts. If you're saying anything other than 5 or 3, I think you need to have your head checked out because this dude right here is a top 5 receiver in the NFL right now. The only 2 guys that I could think off the top of my head that I would take over Nico Collins right now in the NFL, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. That's the end of the list. Besides that, everything else is up for discussion because he has been that good this year. Every single game that the Texans have played, he has showed out. He has been one of the best players on the offensive side of the football for the Houston Texans. For me, I'm saying he's a top 3 receiver. He's number 3. You still got to give it to Justin Jefferson. You still got to give it to Jamar Chase. But this dude right here, he's making a case to be one of the best receivers in the NFL. Next up, the offensive line is ruining this team. Well, I'll tell you my thoughts on that in just a moment, but I couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our amazing sponsors over at Game Time. Where are my baseball fans at? The Astros, they just won the division, and the easiest way to score playoff tickets is with our sponsor, Game Time, and they are a authorized ticket marketplace of the MLB, so you know it's legit if you're trying to catch an Astros game. You can get great deals on last-second tickets, even up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts, you can get great deals on last-second tickets. All-in prices show you what you pay without hidden fees or expenses. And Game Time has zone deals. That means you pick the section, Game Time picks the seats for an average savings of 18%. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time, and they have a brand new feature called Game Time Picks, and that basically shows you all the best deals. It filters out all the fluff, all the other, tickets that are, average price, and it shows you, hey, this is the best bang for your buck, so you can get incredible deals on great seats, and you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Well, for the Astros, it's game time, baby. It's game time. The Astros, we already know they're getting the dub up against the Tigers and former manager A.J. Hinch. But let's talk about this overreaction number 2. The O-line is ruining this team, and that is 4 Toro heads. H-Town, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem because this offensive line it's making my hair turn gray. It truly is. It is making Texans game days a little bit hard to watch with how bad the offensive line has been so far. I mean, I just got to say it. Out there, up front, the offensive line is making these games almost unwatchable as a Texans fan. The amount of penalties, the amount of blown assignments has been astronomical. And it is just completely ruining this Texans offense and the whole feng shui of what they're trying to do. Bobby Slowick, people are talking about him. People are talking about, oh, he's not calling the right plays. He's not doing this and that. How can you call the right plays if every play you call, the Texans are backing up 5 to 10 yards? I mean, look at this. The total amount of offense. The Texans had over 400 yards yesterday in total offense. And we're still talking about a game where they won 24-20, where the defense played really well. The passing yards, 334. The rush yards, a little misleading because they had a 15-yard run by Cam Akers, and C.J. Stroud had a couple of, runs towards the end of that game that got him 17 yards. So you take away 30-something yards and about 4 carries. It was really 22 carries for about 70 yards. And that's not good. This offensive line has constantly been penalized with false starts, with holdings, with, illegal man downfield on passing plays. And it affects the entire offense with them being penalized and them blowing assignments and everything that they're doing up front on the Texans offensive line. These penalties they're just ruining the entire offense. Because the first thing, and people aren't talking about this enough, and I think this became very evident, especially in the Vikings game, C.J. Stroud can't do hard counts. He legit cannot do hard counts. So every single time, all he can do, hut. And then that means the edge rushers, they get a free jump on the ball. They know when the Texans are going to snap it because you can't do a hard count. Because your guys can't hold their water. They keep on jumping and getting false starts. So that literally something that quarterbacks, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady have said, it is one of the biggest, points in a quarterback's game. One of the biggest weapons they have is a hard count to get the defense off sides or to get them off balance. CJ can't do that. You're constantly in 3rd and long. You're constantly in 2nd and long. Like I was saying with Bobby Slowick, how can you, say that he's not calling the right plays if how many 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20 plays do you have in your playbook for a game? Not that many. Because you don't expect to be in 3rd and 20 more often than not. And that's what the Texans are. They're continually 2nd and 15, 3rd and 20, 3rd and 25. You're not going to win in the NFL if you're constantly behind the sticks like that. And then also, besides that point, there's so many great plays that have been made. I mean, just off the top of my head yesterday, there was an amazing play by Stephon Diggs, negated by a penalty for the offensive line. A good play by Nico Collins, negated by a penalty on the offensive line. How many big plays do the Texans have to have this year that are negated by offensive line penalties? Way too many already, and we're only going into week 5. So this offense is 100% being ruined by this offensive line and the fact that they are getting penalized, they can't keep their assignments, and they are just overall bottom 5 in the NFL right now, offensive line. I'll say it. Bottom 5 in the NFL offensive line right now. That's what the Texans have, and it is a shame because the weapons that this team has, the quarterback that you have, this offense should be top 10 easily, and they're not because this offensive line can't get their shit together. I want to know from you, though, before we get into this last overreaction on Overreaction Monday, do the Texans need to make a change on the offensive line? We saw Blake Fisher come in a little bit now. That was because of a Laremy Tunsil injury. He ended up coming back into the game into the second half. But do the Texans need to make some changes on the O-line? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Lastly, the secondary. You might need some help. Right now, I'm going to give this 2 Toro heads because we look at the stats and we look at, the stuff from yesterday's game. You're like, oh, the team didn't look too bad. I mean, Kamari Lassiter, Derek Stingley, they did a decent job. But if you really watched the game yesterday, if you really watched closely in the game yesterday, I know what you're about to see, 18 or 33 for 155. You're like, oh, you're talking about the secondary? Really? Well, Trevor Lawrence, he might stink. He missed 2 easy touchdowns for the Jaguars yesterday. One long bomb to Brian Thomas Jr. where he had the guy beat. He missed a couple guys on long routes where they were wide open. And Brian Thomas Jr. had a day up against the Houston Texans yesterday. 9 targets, 6 receptions, 86 yards, and a touchdown. The Jaguars offense, they were held back by Trevor Lawrence and his ability to throw accurate balls yesterday. And I think it's a little bit of a cause of concern for me as I'm looking forward for the Houston Texans going up against the Bills offense where they're going to spread the ball out to a ton of receivers and Josh Allen can easily dart up defenses if they're not ready or prepared. Now, my take on this is I know we had the preseason goggles on. I know we had, the goggles of the Texans training camp of Kamari Lassiter is this top 5, top 10 corner in the league. That's not the case. He's a rookie. Don't get me wrong. Lassiter is really good. I think down the line, Lassiter and Stingley could be one of the best duos in the entire National Football League. But they're not that right now. There's going to be road bumps. He's a rookie. He's a cornerback, and he's a rookie. So there's going to be road bumps. There's going to be parts where you're like, oh, Lassiter, come on, man. And I felt that way a couple times yesterday with Christian Kirk and Brian Thomas Jr. kind of dicing up the Texans secondary here and there during the game. So that makes me wonder, with the Texans' depth right now at corner and at safety, do you look at some free agent DBs? Because there's some good names out there still. Xavier Howard. Now, he's got some off-the-field stuff and some injury stuff, but he's still a free agent, and he's pretty good. Patrick Peterson, I wouldn't mind that either. He can play safety and corner, plays pretty well as pretty good as well. Brandon Faison is another name, and so is Micah Hyde. So there are definitely some names out there that you can sign off the streets and that can maybe be an improvement for this Texans team. I'm not hitting the panic button at all with the secondary. I think the defense played pretty decently. If you take away that long run by Tank Bigsby where Kalen Bullock, maybe the play of the game, he stops Tank Bigsby at the 3-yard line. The Texans, get a goal line stand there. But besides that play, the Texans defense looked pretty good yesterday. Now, a little bit worrisome in the secondary with Brian Thomas Jr., Christian Kirk. I think they were able to get open a little bit more than I expected up against this secondary, but I don't know. We'll have to see moving forward how well these guys play up against the Buffalo Bills. Reminder, I'll be live this Sunday for that Buffalo Bills matchup. Stephon Diggs, revenge game in H-Town. They'll be wearing the alternate unis, so you don't want to miss out. Make sure you subscribe to the best Texans channel on YouTube here at Texans Today. Live watch parties, daily videos, and you got me, Jeremy Chuggs. So what's not to like? And it's 100% free. So go down and hit that sub button for daily Texans videos all year long.